Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new here. I am Libby and I just share everything with you on this channel, probably a little too much sometimes. Physical health, mental health, ADHD, anxiety, depression, cleaning, all the things. So if any of that stuff interests you, please stick around. Today, I want to specifically talk to you guys about binge eating and emotional eating because that has been like my top struggle over the last probably solid 9 months to a year. I have never actually been diagnosed with binge eating disorder, but my therapist and I do work through what she would put somebody through with binge eating disorder because I have majority of the symptoms of it. I've just never been diagnosed. I also call it emotional eating because whenever I feel an emotion, good or bad, I stuff my face. And I feel like I have a few points on this that I don't really hear a lot from people on the internet, and I'm here to share my real life experience with you because we're all real life humans, right? So the first point that I want to make in this video that might be a little controversial, or you might be like, what are you even talking about? But this has been my real world experience with it, is that you cannot fix binge eating with food. You just can't. You cannot fix binge eating with just food alone. There's so much more that goes into it than just the food. In 2021, when I started this channel, I focused completely on doing keto because I am trying to prevent type 2 diabetes, and that is one, obviously, lifestyle that does prevent that. I didn't necessarily know that I was a binge eater. I always knew that I ate when I was happy and sad. So I strictly focused on the food only, everything 100% keto. And I thought that I was cured. My days of eating my face and my emotions were cured. No, I was very wrong. I did end up losing 40 pounds in that year. However, the next year I had some life events trigger a relapse. For me, the huge stressors that always trigger my disordered eating is money and all the stress that encounters money, right? And then also change. So I changed jobs. My sister and I own our own business, and it has been very, very stressful. And it completely, that and a few other things, completely triggered me to go completely back off of the rails and fully headfirst into my disordered eating. So here's the problem with just focusing on food, is that you are not getting down to the root of why you eat your emotions or why you binge eat. There are reasons why we do these things, and everybody's reasons are different. I will tell you mine because that is what I can speak to as my own experience. For me, binge eating is used as a coping mechanism. That is what I use it for. When I don't know how to communicate my feelings, when I don't want to sit with that feeling because it's uncomfortable, I would rather eat and numb the feelings with food. I would rather have that sense of fullness and that sense of satisfaction that I get from food instead of facing my struggles and my feelings head on. I have shared a lot of my trauma with you guys, my domestic violence story. I didn't have like a super traumatic childhood, but I had undiagnosed ADHD and I really struggled as a kid. And a lot of like my binge eating tendencies came from me being a kid and just not feeling like I could speak my emotions, not feeling like if I did speak my emotions, I would be heard. And I do think a lot of that kind of made me an emotional eater and a binge eater. And a few of my family members are also that way. So just kind of being shown that that's the way that we deal with our emotions as I was growing up. I think that's a huge factor as to why I do binge eat and overeat. I started therapy a year ago, and it has not been until the last 3 or 4 months that I have truly started to understand why I binge eat and how to help myself from binge eating. So now that we understand that binge eating is a coping mechanism, right? Obviously, there's some underlying issues that we all have as to why we binge eat. So these are the things that help me to understand and heal from the things that have made me a binge eater. The first thing is realizing that it is not about the food. It has never been about the food. And that's all I've ever focused on was the food. So no wonder I've never actually healed from being a binge eater. The first thing that I had to do that helped me was identify why I binge eat and why I emotional eat. I said earlier, stress is my number one trigger. If I am stressed about anything, I want to eat my feelings. So the very first thing that I had to do was cut ties with those triggers. So every time I'm happy or something is happening and we're celebrating something, I don't need to associate that with food. And my boyfriend has really helped me a lot with this because his family is so not that way. Like, he's not that way. I said, oh my gosh, it's our son's, whatever, let's go have lunch. He's like, we don't need to go eat a lot of food to celebrate this. We have food at home we can cook. And I'm like, who are you? So cutting those ties and realizing that food is neutral. I've talked about positive, negative, and neutral thoughts before. I also do this with food. I don't think of food as a positive or negative. I try to think of it as a neutral. Now, yes, I still get really excited about food because I love food. Who wouldn't love food? I love good food. I love food that tastes amazing and is good for my body. But that does not mean that I need to tie it into every single emotion that I have. The next thing that really helped me was learning to love myself. I know. I have never, oh my God, why am I about to cry? I have never loved myself. I have never thought that I was worthy of love from my own self. I've always looked for that externally. I've always wanted people to love me. I was never taught that I could love myself. I just grew up in the 90s in a time where it just so wasn't a thing, So I've really had to work on finding true love within myself. And the one thing, I said it earlier, positive, negative, and neutral thoughts. I've always had such negative self-talk and such negative thoughts around myself. And even when I thought that I had good self-talk, it was always just like, oh my gosh, you're such a badass, like, good job, look at you, you're doing great. It was always this like surface level crap, when in reality I needed to change every thought that I had about myself every single day. Every time I would say something negative about myself, I would either flip it to a positive or a neutral. That is one thing that has taken me like a year, is working on speaking kindly to myself and not being my own worst critic, because it gets you nowhere. So learning to love yourself is a huge step in the right direction to overcoming emotional and binge eating. This next one kind of goes with self-love, but I think it's a little different. Gaining more confidence. It seems stupid. It doesn't seem like, okay, what does my confidence have to do with my binge eating and emotional eating? It has everything to do with it, just like self-love does. You don't feel like you are worthy of love. You do not feel like you are worthy of feeling good in your own skin and feeling confident about who you are. But in reality, that is one of the big steps into realizing that you are worthy of love and you are worthy of confidence. I always thought that confident people were people who had their shit together, like that put together, pristine, lean person, our ideal vision of whatever success means, right? However, trying to attain that is going to run you into the ground. And if you are trying to attain that perfect image, like I think most of us usually are, you're not ever going to gain true confidence. And I really do think once I started to love myself more and understand myself more, confidence kind of just came with it. Changing your mindset around food, okay? Again, has to do with food, but still doesn't have to do with food. Does that make sense? Anyways, I've always been taught to restrict food. And I've always been taught that there's foods that are bad for you and there are foods that are good and you shouldn't eat that and you can't eat that. All these negative words around food, right? So I've had to completely flip how I talk about food and how I think about food. The first thing is realizing that food is not your enemy. Food is your friend. We literally need it to survive. Stop seeing food as this big, scary, negative thing, because it's not. It is the way that you survive and live. We need it. So changing your mindset around that food is your friend, not your enemy. And also taking out those words like that food is bad for me. I can't have that. I shouldn't have that. I have stopped saying those things. I can eat any food I want to. Any food that I want in this world, I can have. There are choices that I can make that are better. For me, I am trying to prevent type 2 diabetes, so I primarily focus on low carb, blood sugar friendly foods and keto foods, right? But that does not mean that I can't have a muffin. I honestly hate when people say, you can't have that, you're keto. I can have that. There is no food that I cannot have. I choose not to eat that. But if I choose to eat it, that's also none of your business, okay? One muffin never made somebody pre-diabetic. So there's kind of this fine line with this, right? Realizing that, yes, I can eat that food. I can have that. But in my mind, that's like, oh my God, let's go eat all the junk food. We can have it. No, you have to tone that part down. I can have all of this food. However, I am going to choose to have these whole natural blood sugar friendly foods that I know will help me in the long run for my health. Once a week, twice a week, if I want a muffin, I'm gonna have a muffin. If there's a celebration, I'm gonna have some of the food. It has helped me so much. So much. I notice that when I am having those meals, I don't want to overindulge. I eat what I have and I'm good. And that's huge for binge eating and emotional eating. Eating what you have and not thinking of the next dessert or the next ice cream place you can go to is massive, massive. I just feel like this whole video, most of the things I'm saying are like, what does that have to do with binge eating and emotional eating? Everything. It has everything to do with it. Everything. Movement is the last one. Moving your body. I'm not talking about going to the gym and throwing weights everywhere and just becoming jacked, right? That's not what I'm talking about. That's not realistic for most of us, right? Right. I love weightlifting. Don't get me wrong. I love weightlifting. You can get me to do weightlifting 7 days a week versus cardio once a week. But it has to be realistic for you. It has to be realistic for you. So something else that I kind of went hand in hand, like when I was trying to lose weight, in the past, was I would overwork out too much. And I would not make something that was sustainable for me or realistic for me. So my goals now with working out have been make it to the gym once a week. That's all the pressure I put on myself, is to make it to the gym once a week. Starting small is just going to be the biggest thing, because those small steps lead into huge confidence builders. So just starting small, you don't even have to go to a gym. You can just start at home. Just moving your body, walking your dog around the block, walking up your stairs maybe a couple times a day. Everybody has their own levels of movement that they can do, and not everybody can do what all the fit influencers do on the internet. I also noticed that I want to fuel my body better with more protein. I want to get in more water because I want my workouts to mean something. I don't want to work out and then go eat a whole pizza. I want the muscle to get there. I want the benefits to still be there. So it's pretty cool how that has also been helping. So friends, I hope that this video helped you in some way, shape, or form to get you started on your journey to health, whatever that looks like for you. Go check out this video because it has some very good information, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!